This is WFYI News Now. It's February 13th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, Ivy Tech says it will close its Diversity, Equity, and Belonging office. The ACLU of Indiana sues Indiana State University over a Pride Festival controversy. And Medicaid recipients in Indiana could have more access to birth control under legislation passed by a House committee.
When women are given options of their choice, and where cost is not an issue, a quarter of those women using contraceptive would choose a different, more reliable option.
Those stories coming up. But first, a judge will soon decide if the Indiana Department of Health can release terminated pregnancy reports. Following a hearing on Tuesday, the Marion County judge heard arguments stemming from a case brought by two Indiana OBGYNs to block the State Department of Health from releasing abortion records. WFYI's investigative reporter, Farah Anderson, has more.
Attorneys for the state and the anti-abortion group Voices for Life argue that the restraining order shouldn't be approved because there would be no harm to physicians, and that the anonymous reports do not breach patient privacy. But Catherine Jack, the attorney representing abortion providers, pushed back. She said releasing these records would break the trust between doctors and their patients. Jack also argued the release of the records could make it easy to identify patients. That's because very few abortions take place in Indiana since its near total abortion ban. The attorney for the Indiana State Health Commissioner said the state won't release the abortion reports before February 18th. By then, the judge is expected to make a decision. I'm Farah Anderson.
Ivy Tech will close its Diversity, Equity, and Belonging office on March 12th, dissolving 31 positions across the state. Ivy Tech Senior Vice President of Legal and Public Affairs, Mary Jane Michalak, says the move follows proposed legislation prohibiting state funding for DEI programs.
Over the last month, the college has seen executive orders come out of the White House indicating an end to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And we have been given an indication through those executive orders that initiatives in diversity, equity, and inclusion at post-secondary institutions may need to change.
Ivy Tech is funded primarily by the Indiana General Assembly, federal grants, and student financial aid. Michalak says students and staff responded to the news with confusion and disappointment. She says many students turned to the office with questions about financial aid and student support services. Michalak says the responsibility of the Diversity, Equity, and Belonging office will be transitioned to other positions and departments, but the college remains committed to the office's values.
The responsibility of making sure that our students feel welcome on campus is incumbent upon every one of us who work at the college, and we are all committed to that mission, and that will continue.
Ivy Tech will work to phase out the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Belonging over the next 30 days before it fully closes on March 12th. The ACLU of Indiana is suing Indiana State University. Reporter Aubrey Wright has more on the controversy surrounding the 2025 LGBTQ Pride Festival.
The ACLU is claiming ISU violated the Terre Haute Pride Center's First Amendment rights. In a federal lawsuit filed Tuesday, the ACLU says ISU refused to host an annual festival. The university sponsored and hosted the previous two festivals on campus. ACLU Legal Director Ken Falk says it's very important for the Pride Center staff to host the festival on campus because it sends an educational message of inclusivity to students and Vigo County residents.
This is a public space where First Amendment activities can occur, and it's being denied. That's a violation of the First Amendment in our estimation.
ISU spokespeople say the university doesn't comment on pending litigation. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Aubrey Wright.
And for our final story today, the House Health Committee passed legislation that would increase access to birth control for Medicaid recipients in Indiana. But an amendment to the bill sparked debate about whether lawmakers should limit available birth control options. The original language of the bill required local health departments to provide access to condoms, long-acting reversible contraceptives, and over-the-counter birth control. The revised bill includes specific types of birth control and excludes condoms and long-acting reversible contraceptives. It also now requires local health departments to provide education on fertility awareness-based methods. Lawmakers in support of the amendment say Indiana's large Catholic population and others should have access to education on natural family planning. Kristen Adams is the president and CEO of Indiana Family Health Council. The group is the primary recipient of federal funding for family planning services in Indiana. She says education is important, and providing comprehensive family planning services is vital to public health.
When women are given options of their choice, and where cost is not an issue, a quarter of those women using contraceptive would choose a different, more reliable option.
Adams says a broad range of contraceptive methods include abstinence, condoms, natural family planning, and long-acting reversible contraceptives. She says lawmakers need to consider evidence-based, publicly funded, comprehensive family planning programs if they want to address the problems they've identified. And that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.